What is the weirdest thing a babysitter or caretaker has ever done to you? Story 1. I had a female babysitter who would take me into the bathroom. She would sit on the toilet with her pants/underwear off and have me pee into the toilet bowl between her legs. She would ask me to hit her hairy spot every once in a while. Oh, what? I'm male and I was about 8 years old at the time. I remember thinking it was pretty freaking awesome. Did you ever say anything to your parents? Not at first, but after a few months I remember being upset about something and spilled the beans. This was 28 years ago, and I can't remember what happened to the babysitter. I'll have to ask my parents if they ever pressed charges. I remember then meeting with her parents one night. Looking back at it, it was pretty messed up. Whoa. I wonder what ended up happening to her. I can't remember if her parents shipped her away or the whole family moved. She ended up getting pregnant in high school. I do remember hearing that story. I always felt like it was my fault because I was a willing participant. I have no doubt that if I hadn't said anything and she was allowed to continue watching me, she would have no doubt in my mind taken my V card. There is no way you could have known. She must have had some serious problems. That's scary to think about what could have happened if you kept quiet. These stories always make me think of the worst thing I can possibly think of before I can think not to think it. Story 2. My friend and I were staying in my house for a night while our parents all went to a diner or something together. We had a babysitter watching us who was the older sister of one of the kids in our grade. We were being horrible kids, boys, and annoying the heck out of her by refusing to do anything she said. She made us go into our downstairs bathroom, which was probably 3.5 feet of walking space wide from the corner to the opposite wall and maybe 9 or 10 feet deep. Then she pulled the door closed behind her so we couldn't fight around her and run off laughing. Happened once already. The problem was the doorknob was broken and pulled away from the other side's knob when she pulled it closed just after it clicked. So we were stuck in there until our parents came home to let us out. She was embarrassed and at the end of her rope, just unable to believe how frustrating the whole night was. Of course, we bugged her the whole time saying, "I can't believe you locked us in there, Bonnie. Oh my God." So she tried to give us a stern talking to and then leave us in timeout in the bathroom, but ended up locking herself in the bathroom with us. Although it was definitely wrong to lock you in there, you kinda deserved it, lol. I hope Bonnie is doing better and watching kids much easier to deal with. Story 3. I just want to say I did a couple babysitting gigs. Since I'm a guy, boys only, because clearly all guys are children touchers. I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I was an awesome babysitter. I would just play football, soccer, video games, hide and seek, whatever with the kids. I'd also make sure that whatever instructions the parents set out, no more than an hour of video games, whatever, were followed to the book. I think there's a huge bias against guys as babysitters, but plenty of them aren't kid touchers in training, and would be happy to play with your kids and get paid for it. Just FYI. Edit. So, reading over more of this thread is proof enough that lots of babysitters can be pretty creepy regardless of gender. Moral of the story, hire a babysitter you know you can trust. If you have reliable family members with older kids, ask if they think their kids would be capable, and whether they'd be interested. Don't just get whoever is available. Story 4. These two sisters that used to watch me and my siblings would put tobacco sauce on our lips and tongues when we were bad. They would also force us to take naps by putting us in our bedrooms, locking the door, and turning off the lights. I was 5 and my parents never made us take naps at that age. For some reason, I only ever complained about the nap thing, not the tobacco thing. If I saw them on the street, I called them the girls who made us take naps. WTF, I should have told my parents about the hot pepper sauce torture. Luckily, they were backup sitters who would only come to the house a handful of times. Our other sitters were like family. They were really lovely girls. Jeez, were those two sisters from 1847 or something? Story 5. Genuine story. 30 years ago, my father was in British merchant knot, and my mother would sometimes come along, working the bar, kitchen, whatever. At the time, I was just a baby, and they had a chance for some shore leave together, but needed a sitter. The first mate volunteered to take duty, and he was a Scottish lag with a strong desire for a drink just about every night. Playing to stereotypes, but it's true. But he took his sitting duties seriously and didn't touch a drop whilst looking after me. Upon the parents' return, they found him looking after me safe and sound, being bottle-fed just a small touch of whiskey to help me get to sleep. I don't think my parents were even angry, just amused. But my dad has some great stories from when he was in the Navy, as I suppose every sailor does, and this one is quite sedate in comparison. Okay, Dad Navy stories when? Story 6. She was in high school and I was in elementary school. She would watch me and my younger sister most days after school before my parents would come home. She was alright to us. I remember she was very lazy. She would sleep on the couch for hours while we play around the house or neighborhood. What made her terrible is she started stealing from us. She found my dad's checkbook and forged some checks. My dad is in finance and always balances the checkbook, and it was obvious that money was missing. He got in touch with the bank and found out that it was her. Also, my parents would hold on to me and my sister's cash that wasn't in the bank, like maybe $120 total, and that mysteriously went missing. But they couldn't prove she took it. My parents didn't call the police because they didn't want to ruin her life, and also her parents were very nice. They paid back the money she took, and I never spoke to her again. I actually looked her up on Facebook, and she has 3 daughters now. Story 7. My family wouldn't let me in the bathroom by myself until I was a preteen. I found out this wasn't common and threatened to start asking non-family about it, and not even all the time after that. I liked my first apartment very much because I had a bathroom door with a lock and everything. If I have any kids of my own, I think I'll do my best to make sure they have a bathroom connected to their bedroom, once they're at a reasonable age for it, of course. So I don't even give myself the chance to do this. What was the reason your family did this? When you say family, do you just mean your parents? Did they just remove the bathroom door? Or did they specifically make someone accompany you to the bathroom? When you said don't even give myself the chance to do this, are you worried that you feel there will be an urge to do this to your children? Answers, man, come on, we need answers. Story 8. A babysitter's son tried to assault my sister when she was about 5 or 6. He was around 12. He kept trying to take her into my room to play games. He told my brother and I to stay out. The kid was kind of a freak, so I said absolutely not, and I wouldn't let my sister leave my side. My older daughter and I told my mom, and we stopped going there. Then my brother told the sitter's kid that I was the one who told. So the kid would always flip me off and threaten to unalive me when he saw me at school. But he never actually did anything. Sometimes I really don't have a problem with sending kids to life in prison. I think we just need an island we can just keep these types of people on. Story 9. My neighbor made me wear a leash. Her kid was out of control and we had to go to the grocery store. She pulled a leash out of her purse and hooked a Velcro wristband around his arm. Before I had a chance to make fun of him, she pulled out another one and hooked it to me. I walked around patiently, hoping to be released on good behavior, but no luck. Also, the rule in her car was hands under the seatbelt, which was terribly uncomfortable and dangerous too. Hands under the seatbelt? Are you kidding? Maybe she should be the one leashed. Story 10. I had a babysitter who would try to hit me, but she was 80 or so. She moved rather slow compared to 8/9-year-old me, so she rarely ever landed a slap. She would usually hit me for pointing out she was wrong or me talking back to her. One night she tried to hit me, so I ran upstairs to my parents' room where we kept our dog because she was terrified of dogs. I released a dog, breed American Eskimo, and shouted, "I've released the hound." The dog ran downstairs and, having never met her before, barked at her. This babysitter ran outside barefoot into the snow, ran down the driveway, through the street into the neighbor's house across the street. Called my parents and said she was never babysitting me again. I've released the hound. Awesome. Story 11. I went to a home daycare where the woman who ran it had 2 kids, an older boy and a younger girl. The woman literally just watched TV and sent us outside to play. The boy would distract my older brother with his cool toys to keep us away, and the girl would take me and my younger brother into a shed and make us have X with her. The woman looking after this was completely aware, and sometimes even kept her older brother inside if her son said that he was trying to go into the shed or something. I like to think this story is just an elaborate ploy to get tons of people with the question, what is this X in their comment history? God, I really hope that's all it is. Story 12. My old daycare lady's daughter made me make out with her once. She just randomly woke me up from a nap early, and when I went to go play, she pinned me against a wall and tried cramming her tongue into my mouth. Ugh. I resisted as much as I could, but it was inevitable. Oh, and did I mention that I'm a chick? That same girl also choked me because I was invited into their fort by my sister. But she didn't want me in there, so she pinned me to the ground and held my throat. Story 13. I was the weird babysitter in this case. I taught a 6 and 8-year-old how to make poop-like objects by soaking brown paper bags in water, then ripping them up and squeezing them into little turds. We added little ingredients like Legos, marbles, twigs, and any other small object one may be surprised to find in their poop. We made about a dozen turds and left them around the house. The parents thought it was pretty funny, and the kids had an engaging art lesson. That's not weird, that's freaking hilarious. Story 14. My babysitter was my cousin, and she would kinda let me do whatever while she watched Murray. This was the 90s. I would do things like eat condiments straight because I figured since they were so good on food, they'd be good by themselves. I remember eating a spoonful of salt, a few spoons of butter, and about 1/5 of a jar of mayo. Oh my god. And my stomach hurt, so I took a nap on the welcome mat. In other aspects, she was awesome. She once made Rice Krispie treats and woke me up for some at 11 at night so I wouldn't miss out. Story 15. One babysitter tried to get me to jump out of the 2nd-story window and onto those little exercise trampolines when I was 7. Was crouched in the windowsill when my dad got home. 2, another babysitter played death dice with me at around the same age. My role said I'd die at the age 14 by being hit by a car. Took about 5 years to finally convince myself that I wasn't actually going to die at age 14. You were 10 when 2 happened, weren't you? And that's fricked up. Story 16. 2 babysitters left me in physical scars. I was playing NES with my babysitter, who has Downs. And after having scored a touchdown, point, killed her, whatever it was, I was dancing around until she put her hand on the back of my head, then slammed my mouth into the console. Split lip for life. Ooh. Another babysitter played a game where she closes my eyes then tells me where to go. She had me run headlong into a table. At the time, my eyebrow and the table were on the same level. Split eyebrow for life. Dang, split lip and eyebrow? I hope at least those scars look cool. Story 17. My favorite babysitter of all time was a daycare lady who had 20 kids playing in her living room 9 to 5. My parents said we'll be gone in 3 months. They actually died. Mrs. Mayer took care of all 3 of us 24/7, as if we were owned for a year before we were placed. I know she has departed. I should have deep regrets that I didn't mature enough to tell her how much we appreciated it. She didn't do it for our immature thanks. She did it because she was good at doing the right thing. Story 18. One of our babysitters used to watch my 2 sisters, my 2 god sisters, and me. We were a wild bunch, so when she'd play with us, Abo Edamazi, she'd say in her Filipino accent, "It the door," and we'd all start trying to bite and chew on the front. This is making me laugh more than it ought to. Being from a Filipino family, I can relate, and just the scene is hilarious. Story 19. When I was like 6, 7 living in Norway, I had beautiful Norwegian twin 18-year-old sisters babysitting me. They would constantly hug me into their breasts whenever I seemed upset. I was upset a lot. I'm upset just hearing this. Where are they? Who knows? This was many years ago. Their names aren't really what I remember. Probably in Stravandra though. Story 20. When I was 6 years old, I had a babysitter named Latoya. All night she made fun of my favorite baby doll, calling her Big Head. When it was time to go to bed, my brother and I took a bath, and while I was brushing my teeth, she lifted me up by the ankles, held me head first and upside down in the toilet, and gave me a swirl. I told my parents what happened, and needless to say, she was not asked back. Story 22. Once when I was being babysat by my cousin, he convinced me to get naked. I stayed mostly under the cover while he showed off for me. Then he convinced me to stick my mouth around his salami. Before anything else could start, my parents pulled off. I was like 8, and the weird thing is, I liked it. But I'm gay now, so... Story 23. When I was around 8, I had a babysitter who thought it was amusing to light matches directly in front of my face. I ended up developing pretty severe pyrophobia. In TF2, my favorite class is the pyro, and ironically mine is the spy. Not so ironically, I can kill both before they know I'm even on the server. Sniper's gonna snipe. Now I want to play some TF2. It has been too long. Story 24. Not actually looking after me. I fell backwards in a high chair, busted my head, and she thought I was dead, and so called my mom to tell her, as opposed to an ambulance. She was drunk. What did she say to your mom? I think your child's dead. Hiccup. Story 25. As a nanny, I can promise I've never done anything like this to a kid. Never ignored them, touched them, etc. With that said, I had a babysitter when I was like 3 that apparently made me stand in front of her and her boyfriend with my pants down. My parents caught her. I was never touched. I don't remember any of it. Story 26. When I was 3 years old, I was left with a babysitter once. For lunch, she fed me SpaghettiOs, which call little toddler me a snob, but I thought they were gross. She forced me to eat them until eventually I puked. Then at nap time, I remember not wanting to sleep, so she threatened me with a hammer. I didn't get hit with it, but I was freaking terrified. Story 27. I had a female babysitter threaten to pee on me if I didn't listen. I wasn't sure if I should have listened or not. I always had a female friend that would always threaten to pee on me if I didn't call her, or whatever. I always found it creepy. We only pee on things we love, my friend. Story 28. Seeing how many people have posted, I had no idea. I knew there were others, but not this many. Because of this, I'm gonna try to confront her about what she did to me 16 years ago. I still know where her parents live. Hopefully she still lives in the same city as me. I'm going to confront the first babysitter. Story 29. I remember when I was 6, my nanny took me to her night job as a janitor at a local school. She just left me to wander the halls for hours. Some teacher found me and yelled at me for still being at school after hours. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even go to that school, and my nanny was nowhere in sight. Story 30. My babysitter would always complete my Rubik's Cube for me. I'd mess it up and she'd just complete it again. I don't think I belong in this thread. Thank you for being in this thread. You are a shining beacon of not fricked up babysitter stories. I can't even complete one once. How the heck is she out here doing it multiple times? Story 31. My mom likes to tell this story a lot. And it isn't a weird thing my babysitter did, but apparently she fell asleep while watching TV. My parents called and I answered the phone, telling them to please be quiet because the babysitter was sleeping. Needless to say, my mom was ticked off. Story 32. Not intentionally, but I had a babysitter let me drink bleach when I was 2 or 3 years old. I was in the hospital for days. I had seizures and almost died. Dang, did she encourage you to do it or just stand by? Story 33. My brother babysat me once. He handcuffed me to a metal pole in the basement. I hope he at least brought you sandwiches, with the crust cut off. Yeah, if the crust was still on, then it counts as torture. Story 34. As a teenage boy, I always tried to get babysitting jobs, but found many parents were not comfortable with a male babysitter. It's funny to read this now and realize the female babysitters can be freaking creepos. Story 35. Formed a Congo line with me and my brother. I can't even remember if music was playing. We went around the coffee table a few times. What? You never specified what kind of weird. It's weird. Story 36. Actually sit on me on the first day as a joke saying, I'm your babysitter. You know, in a sheltering suburban household, this may be blown out of proportion, but to most others in this thread, you got off easy. Story 37. She let me play with her turtles. She made sure I washed my hands afterwards. Glad to see one of the babysitters was looking out for her well-being. Story 38. A babysitter has never done anything to me, but I did once have one that murdered a teenage girl. Fun stuff. I posted it in another thread a while back. Story 39. I had a babysitter when I was younger who'd make me drink expired milk. She wouldn't let me move until I did so. Story 40. So yeah, I just stopped reading these comments after halfway down and picked my daughter up to hug her. No offense, OP, but frick this thread. Yeah, I gotta agree with that guy in this one. Story 41. I had babysitters that were pretty well-known drug dealers for that part of the state. Didn't realize that until I was 18 or so. They were supplying your parents, by the way. Story 42. God dang, I was lucky. My babysitter introduced me to Metroid Prime and let me stay up until 11. A big deal at the time, and watch Cartoon Network. Story 43. I've never had a babysitter do anything weird to me. Am I the only one whose parents only left them with trustworthy individuals? Story 44. I had a babysitter punch me in the face because I told her she was an idiot. Story 45. I hope all 3 of your sitters were arrested, especially 1 and 3. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more videos to come, or else this spider will be in your bed tonight.